Good morning, everybody. The other day, or yesterday actually, I tried to do a Facebook Live on this topic, but I missed a lot of stuff because I was just like, I was in a car, I was just all over the place. But I wanted to share it with you guys too. So, a few days ago, I was in the shower and I was very worried about something. I was very worried about something in business. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get this done? I don't even know where to start, right? And God said to me immediately, He said, Michelle, do not allow your fears to remove me from your expectations. Most of the time, I think that every distraction that we have in front of something that we're supposed to do is something that we have to conquer within ourselves. It's not an external thing, it's an internal thing. When you have a goal or a vision or a dream that God has given you or that you've even just come up with on your own, a lot of times people don't move or they don't act on that vision or dream because of fear, right? And fear paralyzes our potential. It paralyzes our potential because fear takes away the initiative for you to move towards that goal or dream. And thus our potential is never fulfilled because we're stuck in a space where we don't know where to start, right? And I think that it's so practical when you think about it in making a meal, right? You figure out the recipe, then you buy the ingredients, and then you do what you need to do to make the food. You follow directions, you do all that stuff. When it comes to a dream or vision, I believe it's the same thing, but fear will cause you not to be able to see the path or to even try to invest in creating a path because you don't know your own what's inside of you. You don't, and that's what dreams do. That's what visions do. They pull out of you the magnificence of God inside of you. Fear clouds your reasoning. It separates you from all the sense that you've accumulated over the years. It's like if we can't see ourselves doing something, if we can't see ourselves performing a task or a duty or fulfilling a vision or dream, then our reasoning is going to be muddy. It's going to be muffled. And that causes us, again, not to fulfill our potential because we can't make sense of us doing something great. I think a lot of times, too, the people that are around you will feed your idea of your value, right? It happens in childhood and all the way up throughout adulthood, but a lot of times we as humans, we depend on other people to define our value, and that cannot be the case anymore. I know it can't be the case for myself, because God has put things in front of me that I don't even know where to start. I'm just like, so I start researching. I'm like, okay, great. I want to create a space for queer people to be able to make really good money and to be treated fairly in a working environment, and it will happen. I know it will happen because God wouldn't have given me that vision or that goal if I couldn't accomplish it. That would be cruel. God is not a cruel God, not to me at least. Fear extinguishes your ability to see your own qualifications. I remember one time, I think I told y'all about this before, I was starting something different in the business that I'm in now. And again, I was worried. My perspective was cloudy. And I had this dream that I went to heaven. It was a long elevator. It was like, pew, it was like really fast. It was awesome too, actually. The elevator even had music in it. It was elevator music. But when I got to the lobby outside the elevator, this woman called me in, and she was an executive for whatever company I was at in heaven. And she sat down and she had glasses on. She had little things that held the glasses on her. It was so detailed, y'all. And I was sitting there like, why am I here? What is this about? And the lady said, she started looking through a file and it had my name on it. She said, Michelle, why are you here? You're qualified. You're more than qualified. Go do what you're supposed to do. Y'all, let me tell you, after that dream, I was off. I was like, yes, I got validation from one day after I had that, God spoke that to me, Michelle, don't allow your fear to remove me from your expectations. That is deep to me. Like, my fear removes the ability of God when I don't believe that God will do what he put in front of me. Right? And then I heard, I always listen to something inspirational in the morning, or at least I try to. And I love Steve Furtick. He's amazing. He's an amazing preacher. He was talking about Jacob and Esau. And to make the story short, in the story, Jacob betrayed Esau. And because of that betrayal, his father blessed him. He gave him the blessing as opposed to his brother, which he was supposed to go to his brother Esau in the first place. So because of this, Jacob's mother was like, hey, you need to run, leave, because Esau gonna kill you. So he ran, and some very unfair things happened to him. And when he got to his final destination in Canaan, he was also confronted with some terrible outcomes, not because of him this time, but because of his kids. So God told him in that moment, when he was afraid, when he didn't know, after everything that he had gone through, after everything he had walked through and conquered, right? God told him to go back to the place of Bethel and build an altar and stay there, and we build a life. And what Steve was talking about, it was so profound. He said, when you are afraid, God will take you back to your greatest place of fear and ask you to build the altar. That was, I was crying. I was in tears. I was like, that's confirmation. Boop. So, but the most important part is, I believe that the altar represents a consciousness. It's not a place, it's a consciousness. It's a space to exist in within your mind. First thing I thought about, let this mind be in you, which is in Christ Jesus. Like, you have to make sure that you manage your mind, right? That is the most important part. And when we understand that building that altar in our spirits and in our hearts and in our minds I named it myself. I called it the conquering consciousness. Because if I'm afraid right now, I'm going to activate that conquering consciousness to go back to the spaces where I struggled, but I conquered it, where I failed, but I conquered it, where somebody did something crazy to me, but I conquered it. And if I'm in a fearful space right now, there is no way that I won't have faith. And that's what the greatest impact that any type of opposition or enemy in your life can have is distraction. If you can be distracted from your strength, from the fact that you've gone through worse, from the fact that you've already conquered so much, you're not going to be able to expect things from God when you're in a space of fear. And that's why I think that was such a powerful response from God. Michelle, do not allow your fears to remove me from your expectations. And then he said to me, whatever you expect me to do is what I'm going to do. And it's so opposite of what I've been taught, right? All my life I've been taught, you got to do the will of God. You got to fulfill the purpose of God, Michelle. But then God revealed to me years later, he said, Michelle, my will is not a set of rules. My will is the inheritance that I'm going to leave for every child that I've created on this earth. It is your inheritance. It is your will to prosper. So, do not allow your fears to remove God from your expectations. Expect for God to show you how to do things. Expect for God to show you how to conquer what you're in right now. And do not be afraid. And that's what God was telling me. He said, Michelle, I want you to have peace through every storm. I told a friend of mine yesterday that I've had dreams that I'm on fire, but this fire never consumes me. And I think it connects. No matter what you walk through, nothing will ever consume you. Nothing will ever diminish your value or your qualifications. So that helped me. It blessed me a whole lot. So I hope it blesses you too. So hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I love you all, and be blessed.